Greetings. Thanks for joining us today to phone bank with the Working Families Party. This is a recorded training, and as you join, if you phone banked before using the Scale to Win dialer and want to skip the training and get started making calls right away, please add an asterisk to your Zoom name. You can actually do that by clicking on the participants window in Zoom first, and then changing your name after clicking on rename. Add that asterisk. So really quick, what this is going to cover is what is Scale to Win. Today we're going to be making calls using the Scale to Win auto dialer. If you haven't used one before, an auto dialer is a phone banking tool that acts as an operator between you and voters. It'll dial the phone numbers for you while filtering through voicemails and voters who don't want to answer their phones, and it will connect you with voters who have already answered. Something important to note is that this dialing tool will never share your personal phone number or information with anyone that we're calling today. Calls will be made through a phone number provided by the campaign, so your information will always stay private. So what we'll need to make calls, we'll start in a minute. I want to just show as a quick example. If you do need to leave audio, you can do so in Zoom with these two steps, clicking on the up caret next to the microphone button. And step 2 is leave computer audio under the options that are shown there. All right, so what you need to make calls. You'll need a computer, tablet, or smartphone to make calls today. In addition to a computer, you may also choose to use a cell phone or landline phone to make calls. It's optional, but you can also choose to free up your hands and use headphones while calling. The last thing you should bring is a smile. It is important. We always say smile while you dial, and I know it's a little cheesy, but smiling while you talk comes across in your voice. Having a friendly disposition in these calls helps open up the conversation, so be sure to smile while you dial. When you open up the dialer at the link that will be provided for you, this is what your computer screen will look like. The main dialer page will have an option to preview the script and two options for how you'd like it to connect to the dialers to make calls. So first, let's look at the preview script option. When you preview the script, you'll see a page that looks similar to this. The body of the script will be in a box at the top of the screen, and options to record a voter's response will be in your questions listed below. When you click Preview Script, you'll be brought to a page that exactly mirrors the script you'll be using while making calls. So we recommend taking a look before getting started. When you preview the script, one thing to note is the script is dynamic, which means that the script will automatically bring you to the next appropriate question based on however the voter responds to you. With this type of script, you won't have to sift through a bunch of text trying to figure out what to say, because you'll always have the next question right in front of you. You can also always go back to change the previous answer if needed. If a voter changes their mind, or if they answer something out of order, or if you accidentally click the wrong response, just choose Change Preview Answers. And then you can make whatever change you need, then move on to the next question. When you're ready to start calls, after you're done previewing the script, you'll need to re-click the dialer link and come back to this main screen. To begin making calls, you'll choose either to call with computer or call with computer and phone. Call with computer means that you'll be using your computer audio and microphone to talk to voters, while also reading the script and recording information on your computer screen. If you choose to call using your computer and phone, you'll be using your phone audio and microphone to talk to voters while your computer screen displays and records the data from the call. You can choose either option, it's just up to your preference. If you choose call using a computer, you'll be asked to enter in your name and phone number to get started. Just as a reminder, voters will never see your personal information, even though you're entering it here. This is just so we know who's making calls and where the calls are coming from, and helps us troubleshoot if there are any bugs or technical issues. You'll then hear instructions to click call or start calling, and then you'll be connected to the dialer. One other thing to note is if you're using a browser window to connect to the dialer, you may be prompted to allow the browser to use your microphone. If you choose to make calls using your phone and computer, you'll walk through just a couple of steps to connect to your phone and the system to your computer. You'll be asked to call a phone number. It won't be the one shown on the screen here exactly, but then you will hear instructions on your phone and click Start Calling, the Start Calling button on your computer. Once you do that, you'll see a gray waiting page like this on your computer screen. Now you're calling. So when you see this screen, it means that you're connected to the calling tool and that the auto dialer is doing its job in the background, dialing a bunch of numbers and filtering out contacts who didn't answer their phones. When you hear a beep, that means that someone has picked up their phone, already said hello, and are waiting for you to start talking. Once you hear that beep, you can roll right into the script of your screen. It can feel a little funky at first, but I promise you'll get used to it after a call or two. Once you're connected to a voter, your screen will look similar to this one. Same as the script that you previewed earlier. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see an end call button. You can push this button when you need to end a call with a voter, and it's especially helpful if you're calling using your phone for audio. If you're using your phone and need to end a call, try not to hang up your actual phone. Hanging up your phone will disconnect you from the system, and we won't be able to gather that voter's recorded information. If you do accidentally hang up your phone, it's not the end of the world. It happens. You'll just need to go back to the dialer homepage and reconnect with the dialing system anytime that happens. So it's best to use this end call button instead. The script will appear on your page here and will mirror exactly what you saw when looking through the script preview. You'll read the script on your screen and then click the corresponding answer below. Once you've finished the call, you'll be brought to a page that reviews every response you entered, then asks you to submit your responses. Once you submit those responses, the data will automatically upload to the campaign's database, so make sure to hit submit. There's no pause button on this dialer, but it won't move on to the next contact until you hit the button on your screen that says you're ready to make your next call. If you need to take a quick break, no problem. Please do so with a plan to return. We'll go over a couple of FAQs. So one, why does it sometimes take a long time to connect between calls? The short answer is this dialer moves faster the more people are dialing on it. So a good way to help speed it up is invite a friend to join our phone bank. The speed of the auto dialer is based on how many people there are to take calls when a contact picks up. So again, the more the merrier. How do I know when to start beeping? How do I know when to start speaking? When you hear a beep, someone has already answered our call. Can you use any browser? Yes. This tool works on every web browser that we've attempted it. Most folks tend to use Chrome, Firefox, or Safari. Will voters see my phone number? No, they will not. Even though we ask you to enter your name and number when logging in, your information is kept private, and voters will see a phone number provided by the campaign. There's also something called a robo-killer. Sometimes you'll hear a strange recorded message. These are set up in order to take up as much time within phone calls and confuse the person on the other end. So when that's the case, you just hit the end call button and then you choose refused in the contact options. Some quick do's and don'ts. So first of all, be respectful in all of your interactions, even if it feels like you're not getting the respect that you deserve in return. We have to remember that that honestly just a little bit of positivity can go a long way in convincing someone, and we're also representing the Working Families Party and the candidates that we're calling in support of. You should personalize your conversations. Remember that you're a human talking to another human, so be sure to personalize and acknowledge any concerns that they bring up, even if you don't know the answer to something. It's important to say, I hear you, I will look into that, or I hear you and I'll ask a staffer about that. Another tip here is try to mirror the person's speed and their tone wherever possible. 3, ask for help when you need it. We're always there to help, so don't be afraid to ask for questions in the chat in Zoom. We'll be happy to help you there. And we encourage you to engage everyone from a place of empathy and compassion. Ask open-ended questions and speak from a place of honesty. This will create openness, respect, and a persuasive environment in your conversations. So conversely, things that we don't want to do, we're not going to spend all of our energy trying to convince trolls or people that can't be convinced. It's a waste of time and energy to try and persuade the unpersuadable. Instead, focus on undecideds and those that do support us. Don't get into arguments or debates, although this can be very tempting. Study after study shows that arguing and debating makes people dig in around their initial opinion and actually makes it harder to persuade them. We definitely never want to guilt or shame someone. People acting out of guilt is not a sustainable movement. We want to connect with people and bring them in around our self-interest. Next, here's a preview of finding some helpful table to help you find the right script button to use. If you know what we're looking at now is that outline. This is also all outlined in WFP's Scale to Win Quick Start Guide, so don't feel like you have to memorize everything on this screen. You're always welcome to reference the guide as you go. I'm not going to go through everything on the screen, but I want to highlight the Not Home section. If someone answers the call and hangs up before confirming that they're the person we were trying to talk to, we'll choose the Not Home button on the first question. We don't know for sure that they match the info in our database, so we can give them a try another time. On the other hand, if someone answers the phone, confirms their identity, and then hangs up before engaging in the conversation, we'll mark that as refused. We know that we've reached the person we're trying to reach and that they don't want to talk to us, unfortunately. We can safely mark them as refused and remove them from our list of contacts. We also want to mark someone as refused if they're hostile or offensive, or if they specifically ask to be removed from our list. Remember, you can always go back to change a previous script selection if you accidentally choose the wrong script button. This is especially helpful if you've chosen talking to a correct person and then ultimately need to code that as a refused. Again, one last thing, since we'll be making calls while staying on Zoom today, we want to make sure you're not accidentally talking over each other. To make sure we're all hearing the voters and voices and not each other, it's helpful to leave the computer audio on Zoom. This just means that Zoom won't be able to access your computer microphone and speakers while you're calling, but don't worry, you can always choose to rejoin Zoom audio at any time. To leave Zoom audio, follow the steps seen on the screen. You click the small arrow next to the microphone icon in the corner of your screen, and then choose Leave Computer Audio from the menu that appears. If you're choosing not to use only your computer to make calls today, instead of your phone and computer, this is especially important to do. Okay, last but not least, we're ready to get started. If you have any questions, you should put those in the chat or speak with the organizer that you're working with at your call party event. All right, happy calling.